Well, peace, 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 fam. I am back already. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube. Um, True to form, I actually have my video uploading. It will be uploaded today. It took me a couple of days to work on it and did some edits and play around with some things, but have it done. My hair is all out and all my hair is natural anyway, but it was really in its curly locks. And I was sweating like I don't know what in that video. And it turns out that my air was on, but it wasn't coming through the vents here in the office. And I was like, what in the world? Like literally was static, nothing. So I went to the room across from me and there was no air coming out. Air was coming out in other parts of the room, but not in this room. So not in the two rooms. I was like, wow. I didn't realize some of my family members were really sweating it out up here. We didn't know. So I played around with the vents and one of them looked like it was kind of crushed. So I had to like kind of physically like pull it open. And then I made sure that the vent cover was open, still nothing. And then I went into my bathroom and the vent was closed. So I tested that and I opened it up because I thought, man, I'm going to have to spend, probably like $1,000 to have somebody come out and figure this thing out. Um, but then that worked. The air started coming through. I was like, phew. Because this office is never hot. Like the room across from it is definitely always hot, but this office is always pretty chilly. As a matter of fact, sometimes I have to just leave out this office because it's just so chilly. So anyway, that was what all the sweaty was about. My air was on, but the vents were, it was just shut off for some reason. And I think it's because the vent in the bathroom was closed. So there you go. Anyway, that video is being uploaded today. So be prepared. Like I said, there's definitely going to be a little bit of a shocker, like a curly, bushy kind of thing going on with my hair. But anyway, the video didn't do it justice because it really was a cute style. Today, I got my class, one of my licenses. I had to finish up my CEs and complete the test and all that. And I finally completed it yesterday. So that definitely gave me some room to breathe. And I actually canceled one of my appointments today. And that also gave me some room to breathe so that I can just, not feel guilty for being in here for X amount of time, hours, doing videos, So today, actually is a full moon in Capricorn. This is the full buck moon in Capricorn. And quite frankly, if I'm not mistaken, um, this moon, I don't know, I think it hit its peak overnight, probably somewhere around 12 or 1 in the morning. And it's already waning, but the moon is still in Capricorn. So yes, this is a full buck moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the taskmaster, the devil, as some say. Well, the devil, Capricorn is represented by the devil in tarot. So, but a full moon, this is, the opportunity to let go of some things. And Capricorn also rules the 10th house of careers and your persona, if you will, in terms of society. Um, as you know, Pluto just last November finally ingressed out of Capricorn after being there for 16 years, which was a rough time. And And Capricorn is about traditions and structure. And um, yeah, Capricorn loves rules. This is about rules and limitations. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, is Saturn is the limitations, restrictions, um, things of that nature. So, but it's definitely structure and definitely discipline. So, I haven't had a chance to really, and there are other aspects going on here. Like I talked about my last video, Uranus ingress into Gemini after being in Taurus for over 7 years. So Tauruses are getting a reprieve right now. Um, Mercury is going to be going retrograde soon. Saturn is going to be going retrograde soon. Um, I think Neptune is already retrograde, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, so we have a lot of retrogrades going on. So yeah, I probably just need to do a quick, oops, sorry about that. Just a quick, get a better idea and give you a little bit more information on this Capricorn full moon. At least give you some basic details on it. Is it going to give me a time? Let's see. Yeah, you're going to be releasing old patterns and commitments. Of course, that no longer serve our highest and best good. Let's see. So it occurred at 1:37. I knew it was somewhere right 1 o'clock this morning, 1:37 a.m. Eastern time. Let's see. Capricorn is generally reflected to be the work side, right? Yeah, because we are the goat going up the mountain. And there is a little bit of perfectionism going on there with our work. We do like to kind of avoid the feels. We don't want to feel the feels, and we will rather work than have to deal with feeling our feelings, which is a big issue with Capricorn. Another thing with Capricorn is what people generally don't know is like we are sort of like the forgotten fish of the zodiac because the goat has a fish tail. So there is still a lot of intuitive water energy when it comes to Capricorn. We can go deep, not as deep as Scorpio, but we can absolutely go under. We can definitely get deep, and we are a highly intuitive sign. Um, we can get up, we can get in that water underneath and go deep and, come up for air. So when we need to, and generally it's integrated in our work persona, we are a very intuitive sign. We're also a very sensual sign. A lot of people don't know that about Capricorns, but you find that out behind closed doors pretty much. So Capricorn is also a very sensual, sensual sign. We could definitely be the freak behind closed doors, if you will. What else? Capricorns also have a tendency sometimes, a lot of us tend to be very generous. And we have to be careful because we get, like I said, we can have a soft heart. Some of us, like there are different. I think there are two types of Capricorns, maybe three, and I'll say three because there's two extremes of the Capricorns, and then there's one form of Capricorn that sort of integrates both. So I usually find the later month of December into January, that's a totally different Capricorn than specifically those Capricorns born like on the cusp, if you will, of Sagittarius, like specifically on the 22nd of December. We are a different breed of Capricorn. We don't have that, you know, because Capricorn also can be known for um, being cutthroat in business kind of thing. And so those early degrees of Capricorn generally don't have that feel. The later you get into December, the more of that form of Capricorn will show up. Unapologetic, will hold grudges, and just, just it gets colder. They get colder, I think, as the months. It, the later they are born in that month of December into January, yeah, it increases, that coldness increases. So yeah, there's two um, extreme forms of Capricorn archetypes, if you will, and then the third type would kind of be someone born somewhere in the middle, maybe around the 24th, 25th of December. Um, and even those maybe who are born closer to the Aquarian side, which is in January, I think those are the Capricorns that integrate more of that, you know, of those two extremes, if you will, if that makes sense. So, yeah, this is unusual, like not unusual, but it's almost rare to hear about a Capricorn full moon going on. What else do I want to share about Capricorn? I think this is really just talking, excuse me. I told you I like the yoga journal. I just like how they break down the Capricorn archetype or the moons. And sorry, I like the way they break down the moon energies, period. It doesn't have to be Capricorn. Another thing about this full moon, which is really awesome, is that Capricorn is the counterpart of Cancer because they are directly across from each other on the zodiac wheel. So it's interesting because we are in Cancer season, right? Which the moon represents Cancer, and the full moon is in Capricorn. So I think I think it's a bit of a juicy energy, because you got that Cancer motherly thing going on there. Capricorn represents the father, so you got the mother father thing going on, and which makes it balanced. So I think maybe this moon is going to focus on how are we balancing our emotional side to our business side and how we can integrate all of that. Honestly, everything is about integration. I talked in my last video about how you have to deal with your shadow, but you can't get rid of your shadow. You have to learn to integrate your shadow with your light side, with the light. Everything's about integration. It's not about being overly dependent, overly independent. It's about being interdependent. It's what I call the three of pentacle cards in tarot, right? It's like collaboration, getting together. And that talks about people, but internally, it's like how do we integrate our both our sides so that we become that one. See, I was talking about there's three types of Capricorns, there's two extremes, and then there's that type that sort of integrates both parts of those extremes. And so I'm seeing it here with balance, with the sun being in Cancer and the moon being in Capricorn. We're going to be talking about a lot of balance for this full buck moon in Capricorn. Let's see, Capricorn, Capricorn, Capricorn. One of the tarot videos likes to say that about when they introduce their reads for Capricorn, so which is kind of cool. I can't remember his name. All I can hear him say is Capricorn, Capricorn, Capricorn. I don't know how he does it, but it's kind of cool. All right. I was being a little silly there. Okay, so let me see what else. What does it mean? Capricorn full moon. Focusing on what truly grounds you and helps you create balance in your life. Okay, so yeah, we talk about that balance, but getting grounded. I mean, Capricorn is already grounded with the with with Pluto being in Aquarius, which is an air sign. I find we really do actually need to focus on staying grounded because that air energy will feel like you're just all over the place, and that grounding does become very, very important, because we could absolutely feel uprooted with that air energy. Um, so let's see. Capricorn connects our life's work, which isn't necessarily a career or job title. It connects us with our life's work. So your life's work could be raising children, tending to the garden, writing poetry. See, this is all the stuff I love and appreciate and would prefer doing, if you will. Or is cultivating your spiritual practices. That's another thing about Capricorn. We are a very spiritual species. And I think it has a lot to do with that fishtail, that spiritual side of us. So yeah, we also tend to be a very spiritual, whether it's religion or whatever. Um, which you wouldn't think because you got that archetype of the cutthroat Capricorn in the workplace energy. So you would think that they are not spiritual. And another thing, very stoic. Capricorns, we can be very stoic. We hide our emotions. We're very good at that. So a lot of people think we're cold and almost unfeeling. I think the challenge with Capricorn is reminding people that we are human, that we have limitations, that we can't just like work to the grind 24/7. We enjoy our work and our work is very important to us, but maybe even to ourselves, we have to remember we are freaking human. And it's just too much. Like over time, it gets to be too much. So I think that's a message we need for ourselves and also to remind others. Like, no, we're human. You can't say the things you're saying to us and get away with it and think it's okay as if it doesn't affect us. It does affect us. You can't do the things that that you would not normally be able to get away with someone else. But that you get away with Capricorn because of who we are. At some point, we're going to have to start saying to people, no, no, not acceptable. And people will push back and be like, oh, okay, I hear that you had, that didn't really sit well with you. Okay. And they'll just say, okay. And then you have to push back until you get an apology. And sometimes it's so egregious what they have said or done that even an apology is not sufficient. There has to be a form of discipline, some action taking, some consequence as a result of what was said or done to remind people we are human and we won't tolerate being treated any other way. Okay. But Capricorns, we also have a responsibility to deal with our shadow side and be comfortable enough to show a little more vulnerability, not be vulnerable, but show a little more vulnerability um, so to ourselves. And when we do that with ourselves, it's going to naturally overflow to those around us. Okay. So what else I want to say about this? I actually almost forgot about this Capricorn full moon. I came in with another message, but now that we're in it, let's go in. So let's see. The moon is eliminated, so ask yourself to explore what constitutes meaningful work in your life. So that could be a thing too. Um, the full moon is about letting go what no longer serves our highest and best good. So reflecting on those things that we're doing as work and how meaningful it is to us um, in our lives in this moment. Let's see. Focus on what truly matters. Release what doesn't serve your highest good. Recommit your attention to the path that makes your soul come alive. Oh, that reminds me of another message that I had to myself this morning. Um, I need to write it down. And actually, this other message that I'm going to share with you, uh, it, I was, I wasn't triggered, but it was something I heard in someone else's read that made me think about this particular question I'm going to ask you. Okay, so let's let's continue on. I'll get to that in a minute. So in our world, countless things are designed to steal and grab your attention. When you unconsciously give your attention away, unconsciously give it away, you give away your power. So this full moon helps you reclaim that power by helping you decide what deserves your focus. So I think the key thing there is being more present about who we are, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're putting out there, because unconsciously we are um, giving away our power. It's unconscious. So honestly, this full moon is reminding us to be more conscious of what we are saying, of what we're doing, about the energy we are vibrating in, or the frequency we are vibrating in, um, and how we're coming across as a whole, because I think, I think, oh, how do I want to put this? It's like in our minds, and clearly I'm a Capricorn because I keep saying all right. So I am a 0 degree Capricorn born on the cusp, on the Sagittarius Capricorn cusp. So I am a full purebred Capricorn, if you will, because I'm born on the born at 0 degree. So unconsciously, it like in our minds, we're like, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, yada yada yada. But it's coming off maybe contradictory. When we start speaking or doing or acting, something else is contradicting what we think we're doing in our own minds, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So in our minds, we're like, this is what we do and this is how we are, and we mean well, but it comes off differently to other people, when we start interacting with other people, or in general, it just comes off differently. So what happens what happens is we unconsciously send messages out, and unfortunately that ends up giving away our power. I know that's hard to and put my phone down. I know that's hard to kind of conceive, right? So let's say you're working with a group of people on a project or something. And in your mind, because we get in our minds and we have it all, all laid out, if you will, because we're very structured, we're very practical. Um, and so you do that because you want success in the project, right? And you might move forward and say, okay, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do that, yada, yada, yada. And you're doing so much, you don't realize you're doing so much or too much, to the point people are like, oh, well, Capricorn got it. So they kind of sit back and you find yourself doing like 90% of the work, which is like there's 3 or 4 other people there. You understand what I'm saying? And they're only like sharing 10% of it. So, and so you may enjoy what you're doing and be okay with it, but then you set a pattern. And then consequently, you just, people expect you to contribute 90%, if not more, all the time. And so that leads people to kind of take advantage. Um, and then you're left holding, you're realizing this at some point, and because you're expending so much energy. And now you're kind of dealing with certain fields, but you don't want to deal with the fields. So you do the work, and you understand, like, so you end up getting yourself unconsciously getting yourself into a loop. So that is why unconsciously, we're expending ourselves so much to the point where we're giving away our power, and we need to take our power back. So when the Capricorn realize they need to take their power back, watch out. Okay. And then everybody's going to be upset. It's like, what's her problem? And I don't want to deal with her anymore. And then that ends up being a loop in and of itself. So just be mindful, Capricorns, that you may enjoy the work, you love putting in the structure and all that, but you're going to have to get used to feeling like you're lazy. I know that is weird, but that's what it's going to feel like for you, because laziness for us is equal work for everybody. So when we pull back, we're going to feel like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not being productive. You are, but you are being productive. You're just not overproducing so much so where everybody else is sitting back chilling and getting the same pay or getting the same recognition, if not more. But sometimes people will, depending on some other archetype you're working with, they may come along and take the project up underneath you while you've done all the work, and they take all the glory or all the money or all the bonuses. And you understand what I'm saying? You'll have that energy. That's what I'm saying. We leave ourselves open to that energy to come in and take advantage. And then we're like, so you're going to have to get used to feeling like you're a little lazy, or get used to that lazy feel, or you're not as productive or producing enough. You're going to have to, because we overdo it. We literally overdo it. So a 4-day work day for us is like 8 to 10 hours for other people, if we're going to keep it a buck. You understand? So you're just going to have to get used to that. And that is the balance that we need. You understand? Okay. And that thwarts other energies from coming in to take advantage, take over the project, get the glory for work that they never did or didn't even know how to do. So yeah, you're gonna have to pull back a lot. So I think that's what this full moon is telling us. So I'm gonna stop it there. I know there's more to this. Um, Again, Capricorn rules the 10th house, and the opposite of 10th house at the bottom of the chart is the 4th house, which is home. And I know we love home, and we love taking care of our home. We love the beauty of home and all that other juiciness. So just be mindful, just keep a balance, basically, when it comes to work, career, family, everything. You're going to have to get used to feeling like I'm being a little lazy, because lazy for us is an actual average work day, period. So, um, but definitely overdo it in the bedroom. there's always, there's always, there are no consequences, I don't think, definitely not for a Capricorn, because again, we are practical. We overdo it, but in the bedroom, it's going to be great because we're still practical, but we do what we do in the bedroom, and it's a win-win. Honestly, I think it will be a win-win. Um, we're taking care of ourselves. Yeah, use that time where you feel like you're not being productive to give more to yourself, to have some self-care, to take time to breathe, to do some Tai Chi, or, work out or meditate, or just switch it out. Like if you really feel like, okay, I'm literally doing nothing, switch it out. But you definitely should not be overworking and while allowing some other energy to come in and take credit for your work, and you're left holding nothing except tiredness and frustration and that kind of thing. So that would be my advice for us Capricorns. So the question I wanted to ask you, which came to mind, is what food are you? Okay. In terms of your energy, I thought this was a great question, because who do you want to show up to? What energy do you want to show up in the world as? I think that's another thing. And is I just thought food was just a very fun way of connecting with that question, because we all need food, right, for nutrition and sustenance. And some of us like certain foods a lot more than others. Um, Although I think when you get to a certain weight and you're trying to cut back, you're not eating enough, and then it causes more weight gain. The body is so intricate that uh, it just gets to a point you just have to, it's like trial and error with your own body, because all the gurus out there might be telling you things that are powerful or beneficial, but they're more beneficial for their body and not your body. Okay, so they make it seem like all bodies work the same way. They don't. They do work the same way, but they don't, because when you get into your body, right, your own DNA, there's going to be modifications, and no one can ever really give anyone advice about that. You have to go through the trial and error. And why wouldn't you? Right? It's your body. So I give you some examples of some foods, right? So we know something like ramen noodles is dry, right? Or but a fruit like plums is really juicy, right? Can you like imagine yourself like biting into a really juicy plum? Or some people like apples or orange. Oranges also has a lot of juice to it, but there's also a lot of healing properties in oranges, right? In citrus. Um, you also have meats, right? For the carnivores. Like, so you have meat. Are you a meat? Are you a potato? Are you, and let me see. I'm like, are you greens? Are you collard greens? Are you just like, a Roman, what's the name of that lettuce? Romaine lettuce, or, just thinking about the different types of foods, rice or beans or sweets. Are you a donut? Are you a pie? A delicious pie, or you know, maybe you think you're a drink, right? If what type of food or a drink in terms like maybe a smoothie, right? Maybe you're a mix of all kinds of juiciness and goodness, like in a smoothie. And the reason I'm asking that question is because it's like I'm asking it in relation to your relationships with other people, right? So if you have really good open relationships with other people, ask yourself, like, when I reflect on my relationships with other people, what food group or what food in particular would it equate to? So let's say you're someone like who's very social, very socially savvy, very socially intelligent, right? You read cues very well. You just have a flow when it comes to your relationships and things of that nature. You can handle conflict in a way that's a certain way. You understand what I'm saying? You can thwart conflict. You can shut it down. You can kick it up and shut it down. Like, some people are just very fluid when it comes to their relationships. If you're that kind of person, what food would you give it? And if you're not, let's say you're a quiet person. You're not necessarily shy, but you don't necessarily have those kinds of relationships. These are two extremes, by the way. So you're someone who maybe end up with more conflict. You're always ending relationships. Nothing ever lasts. You start and you stop, you know. What food would you give that? And so wherever you are in that gamut, in that extreme, right, in that pole of that polarity, and you give it a food, are you satisfied with it? This ended up being a poll. And if you're not satisfied with it, what what food would you like to be? What food type would you like to show up as your energy in the world or within yourself? Always start with self. Because when you cultivate this, it's going to naturally illuminate outside of you into society. So always start here with self. If you're not satisfied with it, with whatever food that might be, let's say you do have a lot of conflict or something like that, your relationships don't last, there's always drama, whatever the case may be, right? Let's say people call you boring, like you're just boring. They don't want to be around you. You're boring, you know. Um, I would think of a dry food like a ramen noodle, right? So you're like, I'm a ramen noodle, but I'm not in my mind, in my soul. I know I'm not a a ramen noodle. Um, but and then okay, so let's say that that's the food that comes up, right? So what food do you can you imagine yourself biting into that would make you say, no, that's juicy or that's good. Yeah. For some people it's pizza. They love a good pizza or they love a good burger. For me, I love a juicy plum. Oh my God. I had a great plum the other day and it was like, yum. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, I want to be a plum. You know, I don't want to be a ramen noodle. I want to be a plum. And if you notice, I use the word juicy all the time, like, oh, that's juicy energy, da da da. Because I think it reminds me of this red, juicy plum. So yeah, so I'm gonna put that poll out there. So I'm gonna write that down. So let's poll and see what type of food group you are. And if you're happy with it, great. And if you're not, what would it be and why? All right. Now, I'm going to end this off with my original message, which is why I got on today, is I wanted to talk to us about intermittent fasting. Because like I said in my last video, I had a health scare back in May, and it was horrific. It was a really bad health scare. And whatever it was, the inflammation attacked, kind of went after my organs, and I had to go get a whole battery of tests and things of that nature. And the jury is still out, if you will, um, on this last test I took this week to see how much damage was done, if any, to this particular organ. So I've been doing some research, trying to what's the word? Kind of make some tweaks to my lifestyle changes. I made lifestyle changes 6 years ago. As a matter of fact, July 1 was my 6 year anniversary of going plant based. Now, since then, I've had to scale back. I've had to put fish back in my diet, um, which, you know, in a way kind of grieved me because of the situation with fish farms and all this other stuff. But I did come across a suggestion about mackerel, which I never eat mackerel before. And I think I must have thought that it was salty, but it's not. And I find that I really love mackerel. And I would rather have mackerel than tuna. Um, because, with tuna, you end up with the mayo, and that's really a dense fat and things like that. But the tuna itself is also all the fish, honestly, to me at this point, the seafood is a little suspect. Okay. So I did not want to go back, but I needed more protein in. And I just couldn't get it with just vegetables, everything that I needed. There's a lot of amino acids. Um, am I saying it right? Amino, yeah, something. Um, there's a lot of them that you generally have to get through foods or supplements. Even supplements are becoming more suspect now. They're attacking the liver, things like that. So you have to be careful. There was a huge news report about a woman taking a turmeric supplement, and it attacked her liver, caused her a fatty liver, right? So, anyway, one of the things that came across is, especially if you're dealing with the liver or something like that, you need time like to clean it out. And so you have the intermittent fasting. And now I used to do fasting a lot, especially when I was in church because I attached it to a spiritual thing. Um, but since then, um, I find it harder. Um, and it's hard to be a little more disciplined about it because I'm only attaching it to weight loss, and it's not enough to stick with me. Um, Plus, if you fast too long over multiple days, it starts to eat away at your muscles. I'm trying to, build my muscle up, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, I decided to do this fasting, I think from like 8 to 8, like I think I stopped eating one night at 8 o'clock. So I fasted for 24 hours basically. Excuse me. And it was, it's difficult. Like once I do it, it's excuse me, it's fine. But once you start eating again, almost you feel like there is an addiction to food, kind of thing. And we probably excuse me. Oh my God. I'm fasting now, so maybe all this stuff is coming up. So excuse me. I apologize. Um, so maybe it's making me more aware that there is a bigger addiction to food. Um, I mean, we all like juicy food, a good piece of chocolate, but can you stop eating the chocolate? Can you minimize? It's like the moderation, what we deem as moderation. And plus, some of the things are so addictive. They put sugar, even in the breads or the pizza crusts and all of that stuff, and to get you to eat more, to buy more, and all this stuff. So it's all intentional, right? Not everything is on us, you know. There is intent behind a lot of the foods that are so good on the shelf, but they're not great for us. Um, you even have the owner of, is it Skittles and something else? The HHS secretary told these companies to take these dyes out of foods. They take these dyes out of foods and send them out to other countries, but they refuse to take them out of the foods for us here in America, which is like, so the companies, greed is playing a big part, I think, as we know with that. And we can say, it is our choice and our yada yada yada. But they are exponentially adding, barriers to make it more difficult for us to do what we want to do and maintain that discipline. I'll put it that way. So anyway, I found the 24-hour fasting thing to be pretty successful in the fact that I've been able to attach the motive to health reasons and to give some relief to my organs. I think that is my bigger purpose. Before it was spiritual reasons, and now it's like, okay, I need to take care of my organs, right? Because something that I ate inflamed my organs and caused an attack, and, which is why I had this health scare. Um, I want those of us who maybe want to try something different this summer without it being too taxing on our bodies or take up a lot of time with meal prep and all that stuff. It takes up a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I know our plates are already full. Our life plates are already full. So I'm thinking, maybe like if you're interested, I would like to collaborate, with some other folks, and see how we're doing with this intermittent fasting. We can either do it once a week, like choose one day of the week where you fast for 24 hours. That actually, they say, is significant, is sufficient to help your body, A, to give it a break from all the digesting, B, clean up the liver to get some of those nasty bugs out of our system, our belly, our intestines, our liver, all that stuff. And so just let me see. So A, give our bodies a break, clean up the stuff from, the junk out of our liver. And C, to help promote weight loss. Okay. So I think once a week for me might be a little too long to wait, I could try it. I shouldn't do that Capricorn thing where it's like do it, consistently because I think that leads to quick burnout. But I am going to try fasting every other day. I'm going to try. And if it gets to be too, and the only reason I'm trying every other day is because one, I really need to give my organs a break. Since, it had an attack recently, it was attacked recently, but also it would behoove me to get, because I lost weight before COVID. And then COVID happened and I ended up on Zoom calls all day and gained, eventually most of it back. Not all of it, but most of it. So I want to like kind of get back in my clothes and stuff again. But I'm just thinking for me, if I could do it every other day, it's like more or less consistency. It won't hurt too bad. Like it won't be too hard to get back on that horse again, because once you fast, you get through it, you're like, okay, cool. But once you eat, it's like I feel like the addiction is so strong that if I go like days and days and days again, and then, I just feel like that's for me. I'm going to try every other day. So this is my second day trying it. I did it 2 days ago. So I'm trying again. I ate yesterday, so I'm trying to fast for 24 hours today. Um, what else was I going to say? Let's see. And then see how actually the scale is doing what it's doing, right? So I'm getting as much protein as I can get in. I'm hoping also it will improve my sleep. So and my focus and my meditation. So and I actually got work done this week. I got more work done. I actually was like on a hiatus for some reason, but um yeah. So let's try that. I want to try every other day. Um with your fasting, you can get whatever in. Now, I am still avoiding like, I don't do major junk food anyway, but I am still avoiding junk food. But if you happen to have some junk food, it's not going to be a big deal. You just don't have to do a major meal prep is what I'm saying. It's going to, because you can just say this, just get in your major food groups, get in your greens, get in some fruits, get in some whole grains, definitely get in the protein, like make sure you get your protein in on the day that you're eating. And make sure you get enough protein in so that it satiates you for the only thing you're doing is preparing for your fast. So in order to do that, if you got too much carbs in there, too much sweets in there, too much this, it's going to be hard. You're going to be hungry because you don't have enough protein in your body to satiate you, if that makes sense. Um, and again, modify it for your body. You know what you can do or eat or whatever that's going to hold you over and, lock in and you stick to your ribs, as my mama used to say. Stick to your ribs, okay? Something that's going to make sure it's going to satiate. So if that's meat and potatoes, as your last meal, whatever, then do that. If you know it's going to hold you over, you know, for your fasting day. And on your fasting day, you can drink herbal teas. I'm avoiding sugar. I'm also avoiding honey. So it's just water. I will put lemon or cucumber in my water. um, Maybe a tinge of sea salt in the water, especially if you're do a light workout, something like that. So, yeah. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, which, in addition to all the other things that came up, was about trying intermittent fasting. The A, to slim your waistline down, B, clean out your organs, your colon, things like that, get those nasty bugs out of there. Um, Fermented foods like sauerkraut is excellent to feed the gut bacteria. So basically, I'm focusing on how do I develop a lifelong routine to take care of my gut. That's basically what I'm doing. So what I've done, what I started 6 years ago is phenomenal. I have stuck with that. Um, and I'm really proud of myself for that because it was sustainable. It was absolutely sustainable. What was not sustainable was um, the pea protein foods. That part was not sustainable. If the meats, the beyond meats, the whatever meats, the plant-based meats, I should say, um, if that was not really a play on words, and we actually saw greenery in those meats as, the actual plants and not the illusion of it being made in a plant, physical building. Um, I would not have had a problem even when COVID came and the sitting and all that, you know. That stuff happened right around the time COVID happened. So I had to get off those meats and also, things that are causing your blood pressure to rise and stuff like that. So I'm monitoring that along with everything else. I'm getting older. So, and, I have to modify some things. My body is going through some things, menopause, that kind of thing. All right. So, yeah. So again, let me know about the food that you think you are. And if you're not satisfied with the food that you project to be to yourself and are happy with, um, then what food would you be? You know, and it could be any food, anything, just as long as it makes you happy and it brings you like this, some sort of satisfaction or a love or juiciness, some sort of juiciness about how you vibrate as a spirit being. Okay. And then the other thing is intermittent fasting for 24 hours. You can either do it once a week, or for me, I'm going to do it every other day. That's my attempt to do it every other day. Um, and then see how that works out for you. So happy full buck moon in Capricorn today. Remember to maintain your balance. Remember to be mindful of how you are presenting yourself to the world, because we want to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of, that you are consciously aware of your power and how much is actually you are consciously sharing with others, or if unconsciously you are giving away your power without realizing it. So again, I think this moon is about being mindful. Be mindful. Okay. All right, beloveds. That is it for today. Peace, 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 and love and juiciness to you. And I shall talk to you later. So great to be back.